what is one sector all of us are looking to invest in over the next year that is essentially inflation-proof and recession-proof?
For me, absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, healthcare and my leading player in that space, Eli Lilly. I'm from Indiana. I have a ton of friends that work in Indianapolis, work at Lilly, but anyone who is familiar, they are my leading player in that space. So if we look at the growth, even because there was a lot of companies that did well post COVID in the healthcare space, but not many have done as well as Eli Lilly. If we go back to 2014, the stock was at $50.78. It's at $317 now and 27 cents. And they've continuously had stable growth, stable gains, and technically they've had maybe one bad month since 2011. One bad month. And it's Eli Lilly's one of those companies like Tim Duncan is underappreciated because it's not the flashiest. It's like, well, I don't have a cure for corona in 2 days. And if you drink this tea with this elderberry syrup, right? They've consistently throughout, shout out to everybody who likes elderberry. It helped me when I had COVID. Thank you, Safari. But when I am looking at healthcare companies that have consistent growth and a stock that I never lose sleep over, Eli Lilly is the lead player that I would draft that is inflation and recession proof.
Ah, man, those you know what? I wrote two because I figured you'd probably say healthcare.
Yeah,
but I had healthcare, and the number one reason I wrote it was because people are always gonna get sick. Like that's something that it doesn't matter recession or not. People are always gonna get sick. People are always gonna need treatment. People are always gonna need medicine. It doesn't matter what the financial climate is.
Yeah.
And so you had Lilly on there, of course. I knew you would. But I wrote down a few others. I had CVS on there. Just the strong companies, Johnson and Johnson, obviously Pfizer, and so what they did. Yeah. And like one of these slept on companies that nobody really thinks about, Walgreens, right? Like people are always going to need treatment. They're going to need their medicine. They're going to need to get it from somewhere. These are just solid companies. So I had healthcare, but I also had agriculture in there as well, right? And I spoke about it kind of on when we were at the Breakfast Club. Like, what is one of these recession-proof areas? And I'm like, well, are we always going to need food? Yeah. And then based on the conversation, the conversation we had,
absolutely,
it made it even more evident. Like, I'm glad this came up, and I'm like, wait, we're always going to need food, right? We should be looking at the commodities or looking at companies. And I spoke about it. I spoke about Kellogg's. I talked about Campbell. Like, these are just steady companies that are consistent no matter the economic climate, because we're always going to need food. So agriculture, healthcare. I knew you was going to say healthcare, so that's why I came up with another one.
But sometimes the right answer is the one that we unanimously agree upon. So for everyone listening, we both agreed on healthcare. Please write that down. If you're looking for something outside of tech, that probably, I won't say it should be the second industry or sector that you're looking to invest in for sure.
Right.
So, yeah, I'll actually go a different direction with this conversation, and I'm gonna give them some insight to that conversation that we had on Sunday. I'm gonna hit y'all with something that what Jay said. I'm gonna hit y'all with something that could change your life up. Very insightful insight that was given to us about seller's market and buyer's market. And there's two types of markets in this world: seller's market and the buyer's market. And the gentleman, Kaiser Sose, we'll call him, who was giving us this talk. And, I was talking to him, and I'm like, all right, he's like, I only want to be in seller's market. I don't want to be in a buyer's market. Like, what do you mean? Like, all right, let me explain it to you in ways that you could probably understand. He's like, when you go to a gas station, have you ever seen anybody negotiate the prices of gas at the gas station? Like, no, I've never seen it before. Like, right. Whatever it is, you just pay it. He's like where we live, the light company is called Con Edison. It's like Con Edison, they give you your light bill and you pay it. And if you don't pay it, then they cut your lights off.
Yes.
Gas. Certain things are just non-negotiable. And he even went so far to say, even luxury items has become a seller's market, where like Louis Vuitton, you haven't seen a sale. Rolex, you're not negotiating prices of a Rolex. You just buy it. If you can buy, if you even
you need an invitation to buy.
Yeah, if you're even lucky enough to even get one. In reverse, the the buyer's market
market,
is
yeah.
like a flea market. So like you go to a flea market, somebody has a painting for $100. You say, I got $50 for you. You settle on 75. Or people, you know, you're always doing discounts and different things of that nature, 50% off sales, stuff like that. That's more of a buyer's market because now the buyer is in control. And he was saying that that's not really sustainable and it's not something that you want to be in as a business owner. So we had a whole half an hour conversation about that. And he was saying that, you know, he's not even really a big fan of the stock market. But he did say 2 stocks in specifically that he thought were buyers,
Yes.
with sellers market.
Yeah.
He said seller market stocks.
And which one were they, Rashad?
Please enlighten us. We may have heard them.
Stock number 1.
Apple.
Yes.
And Microsoft.
Mike, right there, like put Microsoft right here.
Put the logo in his hand.
Yes, please do.
So he explained why he thought that Apple and Microsoft fit in that category. And he was like, you know, Apple has become such a necessity of life. He kind of compared it to, he was like, no, you have to, like, food is a necessity. Transportation on certain levels is a necessity. Light is a necessity. He's like, your cell phone has become a necessity.
Yes.
Like it's
the most
really
affordable computer ever.
It's not negotiable. And especially when you add in all their verticals, they are in a seller's market. And they can constantly increase their prices. They can do whatever they want. And they really have no other alternative in mass to erase them. And then he started talking about Microsoft as well, for all of their different verticals. And he was saying that they are in a seller's market right now.
What do I know? But everything.
So I just thought that was interesting. So I say that to say, of course, Apple and Microsoft, but anything that is a seller's market is where you want to be and where you want to be invested in, and where it's non-negotiable, where you have to do it, where the price is only going to go up over the course of time. And that's just what it is.
Like, imagine if there was a software company that predicted what a market was going to go, gave you the prices before hedge funds did, and they were more accurate than Goldman, Citadel, Credit Suisse, right? What would that be worth? That is the Red Panda Stock Club. You can join us for shock. Put the link in bio. Seller's market, right? Because if you frame it, more accurate than Kathy, yeah, up there with Novogratz, like some of the greats of all time. I mean, I know 6 months ago, that Bitcoin 20K price sounded crazy when it was at 55,000. Now people are begging to break above 24,000, hovering around 18 or 19,000. So when people even be like, well, Stock Club is a lot for 10 grand. Every advisor that I've ever talked to, they were like, if I were you, I would be charging 10,000 per call for the prices you're giving. Seller's market.
Yeah, it's a seller's market.
The price is what it is.
Red Panda has become a seller's market. InvestFest has become a seller's market. Because it was like, even like when we was leading up towards the InvestFest, every day it just kept getting crazy and crazy, and we was worried about capacity. And I'm like, how do we limit capacity? Just raise the price. When we raised the price, people kept buying it.
Yeah, didn't stop it.
And the demand grew every day. It's a different announcement. Dan Cathy and Tyler Perry and all these people. And now it becomes, there's no discounts. We're not running a discount for InvestFest. There's no 50% off sale. Price is only going up because the value is there.
The value of the brand's going up. Seller's market.
There's no alternative. So it's a seller's market. You've created a monopoly. Now you have a seller's market, and no different. Louis Vuitton, seller's market.
Yeah, the key is, and that's the Apple vertical is crazy because they've created 3 different verticals that became its own seller's market. So like, that's the thing. Like, now that you become one, how do you create one inside of it? So, I mean, it's just a brilliant strategy.
The seller's market thing, that's one of the best things I've ever heard. And I say that to say, it's like every Monday we give you advice, but sometimes you got to get the information and make your own decisions. So now you have the information about a seller's market, right? So now the homework for you is to look to see what's the top seller markets in the world, right? What is it? Energy? Is it medicine? Is it farming? What is the top seller markets in the world, right? Research that and research who has the biggest market share, who are the most dominant companies. Those are probably the companies that you want to be invested in, because they don't have any competition in the space, and they have to. Like, one thing about it, every human being has to drink water. That's a seller's market.
Yes.
That's a seller's market,
Make sure
right?
this label's covered, but yes.
Yeah.
Label's covered.
You have to drink water. You have to eat food. You have to have lights. You have to be able to go places. Like, these are all sellers markets.
Or in case of lobbying, homework assignment number 2. Who created that there had to be insurance for drivers and healthcare? Now you lobbied your way into insurance being mandatory, which is a seller's market.
And it is.
The biggest buildings in any city that you normally go into are either banks or insurance companies.
Yeah.
Find your seller's market.
The interesting thing is just like open your eyes to opportunity. Like when you do that type of research, it's like I used to call it like going down a rabbit hole. And every time you went down deeper, you just found out more information.
Yes.
But like really walk outside. Like when we spoke to Kaiser, we were he's just walking outside, looking at opportunity. Every step he took, he saw opportunity. And it was like, wait, that's how we should be looking at life. Like there's opportunity in everything. So that even doing that type of research of finding who has a seller's market, like it's going to lead you to more information, and then your lens, your perspective on the world and on life is going to change. I mean, that's the type of powerful. Like in an hour, we took that from a conversation. It was incredible.
And I always said Sean Parker had a great idea with Napster. The entire music industry vilified him, and then was happy to do business with Steve Jobs. And then Steve Jobs came in with podcasting, which is essentially digital radio, and killed radio. And even when people do podcasts, and they'd be like, hey, I'm ready to pod, not knowing that the original format to broadcast on a podcast was the iPod, and then they tied in their AirPod to it now to listen to.
Yeah.
So even from a subconscious branding standpoint, no one's like, yo, I'm ready to Stitcher today. Shout out to Stitcher. I love you guys. I used the app for many years, right? So think of how you can even create your own seller's market in the industry for which you're in. Or as I used to call it, the ultimate competitive advantage. You have to be able to do something that no one else in the world can do. Amazing conversation, though. Amazing.
I'm glad you brought that up. I was just reading that like last week about the branding of the word podcast and it coming from the actual iPod. Like think about that. It's like Band-Aid, right? Like, like
yes,
like that abrasive adhesive is not the word, right? We think of it as Band-Aid because that's the brand, but like podcast forever will be synonymous with iPod, which will be synonymous with Apple.
And some things are sellers markets, like petroleum, like, you know, these things are sellers markets, but then some things are buyers markets, but you can create a sellers market niche inside of it. So like clothes is more of a buyer's market, right? But you have some, like, let's take it even nicher, sneakers. Sneakers is really a buyer's market as a whole, but you have pockets like Yeezy, like Jordan brand, like, you know, high-end Nike exclusive wear. That's actually a seller's market. So I was asking him, like, well, how do you create a seller's market? How do you create your own niche in a seller's market and a buyer's market? He said you can do it, but it's like having a needle through a haystack. It's very hard. Like Supreme, like they've been able to do that, but it took years to do that.
Take time.
So the easier route is just to pick a seller's market, as opposed to picking a buyer's market and making your services a seller's market inside of a buyer's market. So
go ahead.
So so when you're starting your business, that's something to consider. And when you're looking to invest in a business, that's something to consider.
That was a point I was going to say. So for everyone who's thinking like, well, okay, you guys are mentioning business, talking points, sometimes marketing, but these are the things that you need to research to see what is going to become incredibly competitive and alluring to go public. So if we look at Stripe, process is very easy. They've kind of created their own seller's market where I don't hear many business owners outside saying they want to use PayPal over Stripe. So when they become public and everyone asks me like, what's the IPO I'm looking forward to? That's probably the only one. PayPal had a chance in 99, 2000, 2001, but Stripe, you don't hear all the horror stories that you used to hear in comparison to PayPal about locking up accounts for weeks or months. So they have created their own seller's market amongst the business community. And when they go public, I am pretty sure the stock is going to do pretty damn well.
It'll be
5 years.
The biggest IPO in history.
Easily.
My graduates from my school being Forbes, bag drop.
Bag drop.
A mic drop, bag drop.
Bag drop.